Hello, everybody. President Kennedy was one of our greatest presidents, as we know. He was a uniter instead of a divider. He marched for civil rights, got it done, and it was this new wave of liberalism that swept throughout the 1960s that made America all better. Right? And this is why we love the Kennedys. Well, I'm here to dispel that notion that the Kennedys were anything but a great presidency. The family was a terrible family. And let's just start first with why people love the Kennedys. Well, it starts with this. Kennedy, ooh, the president, the great American savior. This one is from 1960, the other one is from 1961. Can you zoom in on that date? Let's see here. This is the date right over, where is it? Here, right over here. The date 1960. So, the people loved him. What happened was that the myth started with this. Kennedy shot. This is where the myth starts. A beloved president dies. By who? By pro-Castro sniper. Well, at the time, actually the media tried to blame it on Republicans as the extremists and said that a conservative killed Kennedy. Incidentally, this one is pro-Castro, saying that a pro-Castro sniper killed him, but the mainstream media at large blamed Republicans for it. And you had continuously like this, and then you had stuff like this. The club owner kills the Kennedy assassin. So things start getting messy here. Then you have the tribute to Kennedy and the other tales explaining what happened. So it's not a mistake, it's not a weird notion to say that people loved the Kennedy family. But the question is why, though? I've shown you all this, that this all leads up to the building of a dynasty, of an amazing president. So let's start from the beginning. Why I do not like the Kennedy family, and to show you the lies of the media. First, let's take the father, Joseph Kennedy, who was a Nazi sympathizer. We could just call him a Nazi simp. And this guy really needed that his children should be in politics. He really needed them, pushed them into politics, and that's how we got John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy was a serial adulterer, drug addict, who was weak on so many places, on so many areas. He was weak on Vietnam, weak on Castro's Cuba. He caused the Cuban Missile Crisis. He killed our allies in Vietnam, South Vietnam, Ngo Dinh Diem, who didn't like him that much apparently. He did. So what happens here is that he has utilized the CIA and FBI and all other kinds of means by the government to kill off his political enemies and to do all these terrible things. And in the process also make himself out to be weak, which is the hilarious part. And also spies on his political opponents, seeks the IRS after his political opponents and so on and so forth. But then we get the media's accounts that no, Kennedy, he was shot because the FBI and CIA, they hated him. You see? They hated him. That's why they shot him. Well, I actually do believe that they shot him, that there is a conspiracy theory here that the CIA killed Kennedy. But it's not because he was marching for he was pro-civil rights. Republicans were for civil rights for a long time. Richard Nixon and Eisenhower were pushing through civil rights bills together with the Republican Congress for a long time now. Democrats opposing them every step of the way, including Kennedy's Vice President Johnson. But it's because he was such a freaking idiot. He made the CIA look bad. This is why he was shocked. The CIA was like, why are you assassinating our allies in South Vietnam? Why can't you actually win the Cuban War? The Cuban Bay of Pigs invasion? Why couldn't you do that? The plan was in Cuba that we would actually have Richard Nixon as vice president win in 1960, and then they would continue on with the Cuban invasion and liberate Cuba. Problem is that the Democrats stole the election for Kennedy in 1960. In Texas, they did some shenanigans, but what really gets me is what they did in Illinois. And they stole the election from Nixon and gave it to Kennedy. So, for all the talk about how Kennedy was going to restore order, restore some kind of standard that should be applied throughout the government of transparency, that's a crazy, stupid notion, and people have fallen for it. It's a lie. He spied on his political opponents, took the IRS after his political opponents. He spied on Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, need I say more? Well, Martin Luther King Jr. did have Soviet spies embedded in his organization, but nonetheless, he did still spy on him. So, there's another thing that we could talk about here. This. Assassin kills Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson's warning. This guy. Lyndon Johnson. Why am I talking about Lyndon Johnson? It's because Lyndon Johnson was such a pathetic human being. Heading into the Vietnam War, which, by the way, Kennedy escalated. I know people say, well, Kennedy tried to get out of Vietnam. It's true. Kennedy did try to get us out of Vietnam. Now, but not after he sent 16,000 of our troops there and upgraded the general from a 3-star to a 4-star general, showing that this is a very big priority for the United States. And it was already too late. You see, it was too late by the time he signed the executive order to get our troops out of there. It was already too late. The war, the neocons were already in motion. So he fell for that too, being a stupid idiot as he was. Serial adulterer, let me just remind you, and drug addict. So let's go back to Johnson. Johnson, this guy did not want to win the war in Vietnam. No. He wanted to keep it going. So that's why he did not allow us to bomb Vietnam, Hanoi Harbor, and Haiphong. The most important infrastructure of the enemy, we did not bomb those things because we did not want to win the war. The Vietnam War would have been won much more quicker if our rules of engagement were just a little bit differently than it actually was. Our standardized weapons were a little different than it actually was. Long story short is that we hampered ourselves in the Vietnam War. That's why it took so long until Richard Nixon actually achieved victory. No thanks to Democrats. So, you have this guy, Johnson, not a likable guy at all, but he did get stuff done. Now, I know a lot of people talk about Johnson, he signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 only after he opposed every other Civil Rights Act up until that point. Talking about the Civil Rights Act that they were all watered down. Guess who watered them down? It was Johnson and his fellow Democrats, but it was mainly him as not the president of the Senate, but the leader of the Senate. So this is actually what's going on here. So this unlikable guy who got his way most of the time, this guy, he showed his genitalia in public to all kinds of staffers, sat in the bathroom, have a phone installed there, and just sit there while he did his business, and opened the door and talked with people while he did his business in the bathroom. Long story short is, when you have somebody like this, such a pathetic human being, such a terrible president like this, and he's also a serial adulterer, and you contrast that with Kennedy, who's young, fresh, hip, and cool, liberal. When you contrast it with this, of course people loved Kennedy, and of course it's easy to say that it was Camelot. And I still try to understand why do conservatives like this guy, Kennedy? All of it is a myth, it's a lie. And furthermore, Kennedy he created the entire system of the public, what's it called again? The public unions. That's what he did. He created the public unions. So you can thank him for that. I mean, conservatives, what the hell are you doing? I understand why liberals like him. Why do you like him? You don't actually know why you like him. The media told you should like this guy because it was hip and cool. He was going to show transparency. No transparency, no nothing. He utilized all the levers of government that he could. He assassinated our allies. He lost wars, and he absolutely was a total buffoon, and he got killed for it. Not saying it's a good thing he got killed for it, just saying he got killed. Right, this is part 2. Why ask part 2? Because my phone ran out of space. I love my phone. Not really. Anyway, so this is what's going on. As we have just said, that he got killed for it, and which is obviously a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that is why, because he was dumb as hell. But I earlier mentioned that he was his entire family. I hate the family. And when I say I hate, I don't really hate the family. I mean, it's just a family. Who cares? I just hate the perception and the patina that has been built by the media and popular culture. That's what I actually hate. So when I say I hate the family, I don't really hate the family. I don't care. I don't care for that. Okay, anyway, we're getting off track here. So why do I hate? What is also going on with the family? Well, let's take Bobby Kennedy. Oh, he was going to restore the faith in the institutions, going to unite everything. Yeah, I mean, Republicans were already doing that. Republicans were already uniting the country. And by the way, only goes to show, look at how big Richard Nixon won both times, both elections. Look at that, and you'll tell me if the country was really that divided. It was Republicans uniting. Democrats got these, oh, they were united. No, they were not. I mean, yes, they were trying to, but why do only Democrats get the, oh, they were united? Anyway, so Bobby Kennedy, he spied on his political opponents as well. Hell, he was the guy, he was the Attorney General, he was the top guy getting involved in making sure political opponents were being spied on. He was the guy who was as corrupt as them all. So they get this patina of, oh, they were trying to do all these good stuff. No, they were not. They were just as political and politician-y as all the other guys. So who do we have we talked about? Well, we've talked about the father. We've talked about Kennedy. His eldest brother actually died. So I mean, there's not much to talk about that. Kennedy, that is John F. Kennedy, and then Bobby Kennedy was just as corrupt as the other one, and who was also a serial adulterer. And now we go to Ted Kennedy. What is my problem with Ted Kennedy? Ted Kennedy, he brought us a 1965 immigration bill which changed the demographics of this country, promising us the demographics will not change. They lied to us, as we should have been commonsensical to understand that demographics will change by letting in from a specific country. The vast majority of immigration should come from one specific country. So changing the demographics of this country in order to create a perpetual voting bloc for the Democrats because Democrats thought they couldn't win a majority of the white vote since, I don't remember, 1950, I don't remember. But they thought they were losing the white vote, so they decided, oh, we're not going to listen to Americans. Looks like the white vote, the majority, basically the majority of the country, they don't like our policies. Well, we're just going to continue with our policies, but we're going to bring and import votes so we don't even have to listen to the dirty white people. So that's basically what the Democrats thought of the American nation. They're just not interested in getting your vote. They're just going to import other people. Anyway, so that's what they did. And he was called the Lion of the Senate. Why was he called the Lion of the Senate? I don't really recall, but I do know that he did kill a woman in Chappaquiddick. We know what happened. He lied in the police report, and it's pure murder, basically. I mean, he didn't, as far as we know, he didn't kill her on purpose, but he could have saved her, didn't. It's murder in my book. So we have this joke of a family, but oh, it was so glitz and glamour, so amazing. Let's not forget Jacqueline Kennedy. Now, there's not really much to say about Jacqueline Kennedy except that the media, oh, they loved her. Why? Because it was the Kennedys. I mean, Melania is way more attractive than Jacqueline ever could be, but why are we still talking about Jacqueline? It's because a Democrat, that's all there is to it. Democrats get the good press, the objectively more attractive woman doesn't get that, doesn't get the good press. So the entire thing that's going on here with the Kennedys is just a complete lie. It's a myth, and it's built up by the media. It's all fake, and anybody who falls for it, now I hope I have educated you. And again, I made also an episode on this. You could look up on my podcast, Politidoxy. I made an episode to debunk the entire myth. So go ahead and take a look at that. And that all said, the entire Kennedy dynasty was a myth and is garbage. That's about it. Enjoy.